All right, good evening, everybody. I was trying to mess with TikTok, but I got to do some other thing to get us on there, so we're gonna skip that for now. Um, Give me, yeah. See, there's other stuff on here. What are you laughing at?
Comments already.
What are they? Oh, sorry, Billy. We struggle sometimes with the. All right. Okay. First thing, I just want to real quick. I know we've built this up a little bit. Talk about some issues with social media in the fire department, and it's not just for us. It's every time that something happens, somebody's got to get on some social media page and start some kind of issue. But before I get to that, we had an incident last night. It was a iPhone crash notification, and I know we've been getting more and more of these. And I just wanted to say, we ended up driving around a little while just to see why we got that notification. And sometimes it's just, somebody left the area, but we did find a phone down in our park. And I actually had the one other unit that was here looking through the ball field area to see just, and I almost thought maybe somebody could have been assaulted or, hit by a car even, or, thrown or anything could really happen. So when we respond to those, maybe just take the extra minute to look around at them and see maybe if you can find out why that we were called to there for those iPhone crash notifications. So just maybe we take them a little more seriously. It's almost like, we take them as a false alarm sometimes. And I'm glad we stuck around, and ultimately the phone come out of the car and was laying along the side of the road. The guys in the rescue found it, and it was no big deal. We got the phone back to the owner, and everything worked out. But there could always be something, where, somebody was hit by a car and thrown, or, it is a car accident, or somebody gets assaulted, and that sets that trigger off in that phone. So, and we learned that. I learned that myself last night because I'm like, the police are there, nothing, our guys see nothing. And I'm ready to start thinking about canceling people. And then we took a minute to look around and just thought about the park being down there in that area. And I'm sure everybody has areas like that in their own response area. So I was going to do something based on last month's podcast was good. We had Gene Good here from the county. I was going to do something a little different with somebody else. However, an incident had come up, and there was almost an attack on TikTok. And personally, I felt attacked personally, but it's also misinformation. And frankly, people that have no idea what they're talking about making comments about an incident. And if we're trying to recruit people and bring people into this thing and work together and do things, that's definitely not helping. And again, we're not perfect here. I'm not perfect. The incident wasn't perfect. So just to lay it out real quick, it was we had a house fire in the borough. And, the first alarm responded and the fire alarm all answered up. I don't believe there were any fills on the alarm. And it was -5 degrees at the time of the call. It was actually -5.2 degrees according to our software. The units arrived. It was dispatched at 2346. First engine got there at 2350. And the other units started arriving quickly behind that. Then the first ladder truck was there a minute behind that, and things just were falling into place. We had a water supply set up in a good amount of time. There was no barking about that. The engine assigned to it went to the water supply, got it to us, and we started working. We put a 33-minute interior attack on that house, and we lost. The experience that was on the scene there is second to none. There were years and years and years, decades of experience there. We had well over 50 members there, not including the 3 EMS agencies that came and helped us out greatly with the, cold weather, gave us some shelter and some, hot drinks and things like that. We had some freezing problems with our new engine. We quickly went to another water source and got that straightened up. So, and after the incident, we had a little after-action review over here in which all the departments that were involved came over. We went over the incident. What can we do better next time? Always something we can do better. Always something we can learn. We learned a few things at this fire after the fact. The house had a heavy fire load. It also had flammable liquids that were involved. It was a very frustrating fire. It was a frustrating night. And we got out of it with no injuries. The homeowner was burned slightly. He was out of the house when we arrived, but he attempted to put the fire out. He's out of the hospital and doing okay on the mend. I've spoken to him. So all in all, that's good news. I think the only thing that's missing right now is a Halligan bar. And we're going to do our best to find out. We actually found our hook that's missing. We're still missing a Halligan bar from another company. So what brought the social media thing up was a little ways into the incident, which it depends on if you want to go from dispatch or the first engine arriving. We'll just give it and call it. It was 22 minutes into the incident. An engine called me with a crew of 5 and wanted to know if I wanted them to respond. So we'll find it for you, Billy. I'll do my best, or I'll give you one. The engine called with a crew of 5, asked me if I wanted to come. I looked around for a second, and I simply said no on the radio. The no was kind of cut off. My mic was frozen and a couple different things or whatever. I went too quick, but I looked around and saw all the people standing around. We had plenty of people standing by, people getting warm and doing things at that time, after that time, that I didn't want to bring another engine over there for any reason whatsoever. Has nothing to do with who it was. And had that engine called me 5 minutes in, they probably would have came. So ultimately, the audio clip of the call gets put on TikTok, and my no answer and the keyboard warriors went to town. And I printed all the comments out, so I don't get nothing wrong. And, this is on Facebook to look at. So, you can simply go there and find this. It's pretty easy. And one of the first comments we come across was, so you denied an engine with a crew of 5 from the next town over. Make that make sense. Well, we're going to make it make sense. And then, let's see what we get into here. Why not bring the unit that was out on another call and ready to respond staffed and put your ego to the side and protect the community? Well, at the time, the 20-some minutes in, that engine called to ask if they could come, and I'm sure nobody knew that was 20-some minutes into the incident. They figured it's probably right in the beginning, and I'll make my comment like we do on everything else in this world. And at that time, geez, I had 6 or 7 engines there, 2, almost 3 ladder trucks, and plus all the support vehicles and everything else there. And again, the weather's terrible. I'm worried about people falling in the ice. I got guys inside the house that I'm concerned about. And frankly, we didn't need them. How many, 5 more people weren't changing the outcome or another engine of that fire. And we had plenty of reserve people there. So, you should be jailed for offering life-saving assistance to a neighboring fire district where ego is more important than service. I'm going to tell you again, it had nothing to do with ego, ever. There's some comments of good comments towards the thing, but I'm not going to get into that. I like the negative comments are my favorite. I would love to find out why Scene Command does this. A crew of 5, but no. Don't come to my scene. Forget about persons that need help. Pissing contests need to stop. I'm not aware of any pissing contest there between us and that engine. It was a simple, we didn't need them. No, I wouldn't. You're right, Jerry. I don't do well sitting here, let alone in there. So that's the thing there. So every time we have an incident, and it's not, I'm sure it's not just in this county, but of course that's what we see and that's what we talk about. Every time there's an incident, somebody has a better way of doing it and a better way for that commanding officer to do things. And I'm talking about this for all the chiefs, captains, whatever, commanding officers of an incident out there. I want to talk about this. And I sure hope that the people that are on TikTok, because you know who you are on here. I offered for you to all come down here and I would sit here at this table with you and I would explain our tactics to you and why we did what we did. And every time, like I said, that we have, well, that's offering help's not necessarily being a scab, but when you start talking about you should go to jail or you're going to kill somebody for doing this and things like that, nobody, frankly, on here probably understood even where we were in the incident or what was going on or how many people we had there or any of that stuff. So anyway, when you're out there and you get on and make these comments about how somebody ran an incident or did something, try to think if you were in that spot. And frankly, most of the people that have made comments on here probably never commanded an incident in their life. So I don't know how you have the right to even start making some of these comments on there about why or what was done or any of that stuff. Now, the next thing that came into play, and this is again on this TikTok bit, and the same people, and I know who some of them are, was that I call a further RIT company than another RIT company. So, yes, I change my readouts and I call a company that's a little further out the highway. And I'm going to, whether you don't have to agree with me on this or not, but RIT is a thing that I'm trying to read some of the comments going up. I don't want to miss any of the great ones. Not that yours wasn't good, Jimmy. RIT's another animal. So you call a RIT team in, and there's only a few in the county, they're around. They take 10, 12, 15 minutes to get there, get set up, get in front of the building, do their 360, check their things out, get themselves together where they're ready to make a rescue if they're needed. So in those 10, 15 minutes, you tell me who's going to rescue those firefighters during that 10 to 15 minutes that we're waiting on the RIT companies to get there, regardless of where they're coming from. Well, it's certainly going to be the firefighters that are on the scene that are going to make that rescue. So it doesn't really matter at that point if it's another 3 or 4 minutes for a rescue to get here to get the RIT operation the sustained RIT operation in progress. We have to use our third or fourth incoming engine or truck or second truck or whatever, 2 or 3 guys off of there, to have them waiting if somebody goes down, one of our own. We're trained to do interior fire attack and rescue victims in the home. Well, when a firefighter goes down, he becomes a victim. He's a person just like anybody else. So we can certainly have personnel there to make that rescue until the RIT companies are there and in place to do what they need to do. And you're right about that, Jerry. There's some statistics I read, and I didn't want to get into all that, but you're right about that. Most firefighter rescues are performed by other interior firefighters, especially in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the incident. And those are usually somebody just got disoriented, lost, medical emergency, different things like that. You know, our later rescues are going to be the more technical rescues where we're getting structure collapses, floors going down, you know, roofs coming in, different things like where we're going to need some more specialty rescue types to handle that kind of stuff. So, yes, I moved my RIT a little further out. And now for the one that really put the RIT thing in there and gave me that I'm going to hurt or kill somebody because of my choices of changing that. Let me explain to you that that company at the time was scratching all the time on alarms to begin with. So they were doing nobody any good at the time. And they still do, frankly. We're all having problems with manpower. But also, those same company goes by here to go 3 municipalities over for RIT when there's other closer companies. That RIT company is my choice. It wasn't made just by me. It was made by all my officers to make the change. And we made it based on trained personnel, the response of the company, and that's how that came to be. It had nothing to do with anything more than that. And again, the RIT is we rescue our people until they get there, and we should be thinking as command officers, who am I going to, if it's 2 guys or whatever, and believe me, if a firefighter goes down, everybody's going to get them. Everybody. Hell, I fell under a tree one day and just yelled something being funny, and 12 people were on top of me, and I really wasn't under the tree. I just yelled man down, and there were 20 people on top of me. But so it's going to happen. And they don't care who you are, if they like you or they don't like you or whatever. It's just the nature of the beast. So along with this TikTok bit, a few days later, I'm out to eat. Sean, you're right about that. But I like to talk about it because this happens every single time. Every single time. I'm out to eat. Now I'm at a place. We go to a place. We had a reservation, and it got screwed up. So we end up at a place I haven't been to in 10 years, and I probably never go back. And it's right here in the borough. And it's fun to talk about this, Danny. I like to talk directly to people because, like I said, they hid behind their phones and their computers on here. I invited them down to talk to us, and they can. I hope they're certainly watching. So I'm down at a restaurant here in the borough, and I'm sitting there next to my good friend, and our families are there, and my wife, my daughter, his son is a fireman, and a daughter, his daughter, and all that. And I hear out of the corner of my ear, Chief 32 is going to get somebody killed because he didn't let us come to this fire. So I'm poking at my buddy, and he's poking at me, and we're just sitting there. And he's like, "Are you going to say something?" I said, "No, I'm not going to say anything. I want to hear what goes on." So we're sitting there, and they decided, none of them believed me when I found out what company they were from and where they came from. They would never be on a fire in this borough because it's way, way out there, first of all. They kept going on and on. And then they started talking about another fire that happened. and brought up another couple names that I heard the names of them in there. And I said, well, you know, here we go. They're just what they do. So as we got up out of the seat, my buddy taps me and he goes, come on, Chief 32, let's go eat. And, you know, that was at the point when they realized I was sitting there. But, I mean, out in the middle of a restaurant, you're doing things like that. I mean, it just makes the fire service look bad. And we do enough sometimes to do that on our own. So I encourage you people out there that like to do these things, and believe me, I said to, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and, you know, he said, hey, keep cool about this and, you know, whatever. And I said, you know, I'm doing this because it happens to everybody every time there's an incident. And I want these people to hear from you directly. Like I said, I would have been more than glad. We've talked about it 100 times at this table, is maybe this is where we have to discuss things from face to face, because nobody will get face to face with each other and just say what things are. When we had that after action review, geez, we had, what do we have, 15, 20 people here or so? I asked them to keep limited to 2 people per company that was on the scene. And I thought it was something good to do. We thought it was something good to do, and thought that, you know, I frankly wanted somebody to look at me and say, you're an idiot. And why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that or that? And we just went around, and there were things we can improve on, and I can certainly improve on, and anybody for that matter. But it was just a bad situation. And like I said, nobody come out hurt, and that's all we can be grateful for. But it was nice going around hearing everybody's different view of the fire, because I certainly didn't get that, you know, I'm walking around trying to keep eyes on the whole building. And I will tell you, and I've done this before, I certainly sat around the fire station questioning somebody, why did you do that? And I will never do that again. After the first couple I've been involved in, I certainly haven't ran 100 incidents like some of you and whatnot, but after this one, I will never do any of that again or question anybody else's tactics. If it's something we can talk about to make everybody better, then great. But being out there that night, especially, just with the weather, the situation we were in, what was happening, it's a very lonely spot. Even though there were a lot of people around me and a lot of experienced people and a lot of people to care, and a lot of people offered their advice and their comments and during the fire and all that stuff, it's lonely. You know, and my main concern is those guys. Yeah, Colton, I interfered in that a little bit today, and that was one of the things too. I was gonna bring it up, but you know, I'm worried about the guys inside. When is it time to get them out? How long do we keep at this? At what point does this become not worth it? Risk a lot to save a lot, risk little to save little, right? And we got to a point where I was actually standing on the side of the building, looking, with fire venting out of the side a little bit, and I was listening to the radio traffic, and the wall actually moved a little bit, breathed, I call it, but breathed, and I said, that's it, we're done. I want everybody out, and I pulled everybody. I never thought, you know, is somebody going to give me crap about this, or did I, you know? And one of the questions I asked, did I wait too long? Did I, you know, pull them too early? I wanted to know. And in hindsight, it worked out to be a good time, because again, we got everybody out and everybody got out safe. So, you know, and that decision was one of those ones where I was alone in that decision. I could ask 10 people there, But I don't have the time to do that, certainly, and that was a quick decision to do it. One of the questions was brought, why didn't I have that particular engine come over to standby? Well, I have a standby on my alarm to come over here. And we actually ended up bringing another engine over, and we used that standby engine to lay a line when our truck started to freeze up, and I was afraid we were going to lose the water supply that we had, and frankly, we needed a little bit more water for the aerial pieces. So we ended up laying another line with a standby engine. They were great about it. I felt bad having to get them out in the cold because they were kind of just sitting in the station. They were there to help. I was not hurting for resources on the scene of that fire. A lot of times we are not hurting for resources on the scene of that fire. And that'll bring me to where you get too many people at an incident. Span of control. How many people can one person control? And you know how it is. I get everybody wants to come, get smoke on their jacket, smell it in the station, and talk about it for a month. And I get all that. I'm not at all. I'm way past that, believe me. I had some people help me with that part of that, about second guessing myself. But I'm trying to get it out there of why we're doing things, and why these command officers make these decisions at the time that they do, and why they do it. At least why I did it. I could only keep an eye on so many people. And you know how it is when you get to a fire, everybody wants to run in a door. You stop them from running in the front door, they find another door to go into. And that's why it's good to have other officers with an eye on people. And as far as I'm aware, I knew where all the interior people were the whole time and how many there were. And we even pulled everybody, and then some wanted to go back at that basement again in that house because that we just didn't understand what was going on in there. And it was still a time where we could send a couple in to, maybe make another attack on it. And then at some point we just abandoned the idea because it just became unsafe. But, I was able to keep with what I had there, people wanting to get warm, and people, down there fighting the fire still, and do all that. And to bring just more people there creates more chaos at some point. Too many firefighters became it becomes too hard to keep an eye on. I didn't need 7 guys standing in the doorway, at the front door, and 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in the back door standing there. And another situation that creates, because I've seen this and everybody's seen it, is those 2, 3 guys that are in there on the line. And yeah, I like that. I agree with some of that too. Those 2, 3 guys that are in there on that line, if they have to get out in a hurry and 5 people are standing in the doorway, what do you think that's going to do? You're either going to get trampled or just get in their way. So we have to do better. And like I said, believe me, I've done some of this second guessing type things, and I try to stay out of some of this social media stuff. This one I made a couple comments on this TikTok. This one chapped my ass pretty good. And I've seen it happen to other people. And it's just not good for the service as a whole. Not to mention, we're not the only ones looking at this social media. So it just makes everybody look bad and like a bunch of whining babies, frankly. Like I said, if you have a problem with how somebody did something at the scene of a fire, a wreck, fuel spill, whatever, gas leak, go ask them. I'll be more than glad to talk to you about it. Matter of fact, we had a fire down here the other day, small fire in a wall. And one of the guys were on the scene, and he was one of the ones that came to me about bringing another unit in, a specialty unit, to foam the basement. And he said, hey, why did you abandon that idea? Well, I explained to him exactly why. I abandoned it because the guys that brought the truck, that know about the truck, decided with the weather conditions that it wasn't going to work. So I left it up to them. They know their truck. They know what it can do. And I left that up to them. I don't have any problem explaining why we do things or not. But let's just try to work on things and stop doing things to each other. I didn't see any of my TikTok fans commenting here tonight, which I was hoping hopefully they're listening. And I hope you understand now why. And, you know, it's probably the same reasons that anybody else does it along those lines. Another one of our listeners here, Colton, brought up about a newspaper article in the paper today. Department over the way apparently is going to put some signs up to help with their recruiting at their different stations and make their stations look a little better and do different things. And, you know, my comment was simple, you know, keep fighting the good fight, Chief. And then you get people on there about how their great grandfather ran the department sometime and did something and whatever, and that you can't do this with this money and you can't do this and that. And frankly, I mean, I found out more later because I like to find out who is actually talking. But just don't comment or call somebody and ask somebody, hey, you sure you can do that? Or maybe they'll be glad to answer you. I don't really know if they have to, but whatever. It's a good thing. Anything we can do to get people back into this thing and whatnot. And it's a fight. Why is it a fight? Well, it's a fight because in the borough of South Greensburg, you know, the residents anymore, things have changed over here in South Greensburg. And what's changed? Well, businesses have left and homeowners have left, you know, whether to follow those businesses or whatever. And now we have, you know, a lot of different type of rental properties where people don't, you know, they don't stay for 20, 25, 30 years. People are busy and unbelievable. You know, people are busy at their stuff and they just don't have time for it. But maybe you don't know what time we're asking for. Or maybe you don't know, you know, what's involved in it. You know, we've talked about this during when we talked about recruiting and retention. We haven't talked about it in a while. Every person on the fire truck certainly isn't an interior guy every time. You hope to have a decent crew, interior guys, or extrication certified people, or whatever we're responding to, hazmat people on the truck, people, medical people. People have different skills that they can bring to this thing. So it's not just targeting one type of person and all that. So, yeah, I've seen a couple of comments. Frankly, I'm not whining about it. I really want people to see what goes on here. And I wanted to address these certain people that chose to do this. And if you look around, they choose to do it every time. It's usually the same pile of people that do it. To the people that, you know, were supportive, thanks. And I don't know that that's what I was looking for. I just wanted to it really, somebody sent it to me right away after it popped up or whatever, and the thing grew pretty good. Some of it was actually comical, some of the comments, and the way people come on about not getting, called or whatnot. And the one thing about that restaurant encounter, I did find out later that the one young man that was in there was actually the driver on the engine that night that called, and I denied them. And like I said, I didn't deny them because of who they were or what. We were just far enough into it, and I had plenty of people there. I didn't want any more people around to have to keep an eye on. So that's that. We're not going to keep harping on this too long. I'm done with it, and I hope that set the record straight. Next month, I'm going to get somebody on. We can actually talk about something productive. So we'll see you next month at some point, and we'll get out there. And from then until now, if you got something to say, you know where to find me. We'll see you next time.